For years, the FBI was haunted by a ghost. A mole buried deep inside the US intelligence community was selling America's most vital secrets to the Russians. This phantom was compromising operations and getting agents killed. Desperate, the FBI put one of its most senior counterintelligence agents in charge of the hunt, Robert Hanssen. There was just one problem. The man leading the investigation was the very traitor they were looking for. This is the incredible story of how a quiet church-going father of six, a man who seemed almost boringly ordinary, became the most destructive spy in American history. It's a chilling lesson that the greatest threats often come not from our enemies, but from the people we are paid to trust. Robert Hanssen's story doesn't start in Moscow, but in Chicago, where he was born the son of a police officer. His childhood was shadowed by a cold, emotionally abusive father who planted in him a lifelong resentment and a desperate need for validation. Hanssen was brilliant but painfully awkward, a man who saw himself as intellectually superior to everyone in the room, yet was consistently overlooked. He joined the FBI in 1976, perfectly playing the part of a staunch, conservative patriot with fiery anti-communist beliefs. His colleagues, noting his grim demeanor and habit of wearing only black suits, nicknamed him Dr. Death and the Mortician. For 3 years, he was just another agent, but by 1979, with a growing family and a shrinking government salary, Hanssen made a choice that would change everything. He walked into the office of a Soviet trading corporation in New York, a known front for the GRU, Soviet military intelligence, and anonymously offered them his services. He told himself it was just about the money, a quick score, and then he'd be out. But in that one act, he drew a line he could never uncross. His first betrayals were catastrophic. He passed information that helped the Soviets identify Dmitry Polyakov, a high-ranking Soviet general who had secretly been one of America's most precious assets for 2 decades. Both Hanssen and another mole, the CIA's Aldrich Ames, exposed Polyakov, who was arrested in 1986 and executed 2 years later. And that was only the beginning. Hanssen funneled secrets to the Soviets for 2 years until one day his wife Bonnie found him in their basement with incriminating documents. Panicked and cornered, Hanssen confessed not to the FBI, but to her and a priest from their conservative Catholic group, Opus Dei. The priest instructed him to stop spying and donate the blood money to charity. For a while, it seemed to work. Hanssen broke off contact and swore to his wife he was done. But the monster he'd created was just lying dormant. By 1985, Robert Hanssen was back in business. He re-established contact with the Soviets, this time with the KGB, and his espionage became bolder and far more damaging than before. This marked the beginning of his true double life, a stunning act of deception that he would maintain for the next 15 years. On the surface, he was the picture of suburban piety. He lived in a modest house in Vienna, Virginia, with his wife and 6 children. A devout member of Opus Dei, he attended Mass daily and was known for lecturing his colleagues on morality and faith. He was, to all appearances, the ultimate conservative family man. But that was all a carefully constructed lie. Behind this facade, Hanssen was systematically gutting America's national security. He used meticulous spycraft, leaving packages of classified documents at dead-drop sites in quiet suburban parks, hidden under footbridges for his Russian handlers. He was Ramon Garcia, a ghost who never met his handlers, his identity a complete mystery even to the KGB. The damage was almost unimaginable. He turned over more than 6,000 pages of classified documents. He exposed the identities of numerous Russians secretly working for the US, leading to the execution of at least 2 of them. He revealed the existence of a secret, multi-million-dollar FBI tunnel built for eavesdropping beneath the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C. He sold secrets on everything from U.S. nuclear war plans to counterintelligence programs. In return, he was paid over $1.4 million in cash and diamonds. But it wasn't just about the money. Hanssen was driven by a toxic mix of ego and resentment. He felt underappreciated by the FBI, an institution he was convinced he was smarter than. and he got a narcissistic thrill from outwitting two global superpowers at once. This led to a bizarre internal conflict. Here was a man who went to confession weekly, yet broke every oath he'd ever taken. He even developed a strange, non-sexual obsession with a stripper, buying her a Mercedes-Benz and expensive gifts in a twisted attempt to save her soul, all while betraying his country for cash. This was the world of Robert Hanssen, a man who preached a strict moral code with one breath and committed the ultimate betrayal with the next. The fact that one man could inflict so much damage from the inside is a terrifying look at security, trust, and betrayal. It's a reminder that the most dangerous threats are often the ones you never see coming. If you find these true stories of espionage and crime compelling, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. By the 1990s, the US intelligence community was in a state of quiet panic. They knew they had a mole. The 1994 arrest of CIA traitor Aldrich Ames explained some of their devastating losses, but not all of them. Critical operations, like the Embassy Tunnel project, were still being mysteriously compromised, which meant another, deeper mole was still active. The irony was almost unbearable. The FBI launched a massive, multi-year mole hunt, and Robert Hanssen, as a senior counterintelligence agent, was assigned to help find the traitor. He sat in on strategy meetings, reviewed the case files, and lectured on security, all while he was the very person they were hunting. He was literally tasked with finding himself. For years, the investigation spun its wheels. The breakthrough finally came in 2000, when the FBI paid $7 million to a former KGB agent for a file on their American mole, Ramon Garcia. That file was a goldmine. It contained a recording of the mole speaking to a Russian handler and, critically, a plastic bag from a dead drop that held a single, latent fingerprint. Back at FBI headquarters, the voice on the tape was instantly recognizable. It was Robert Hanssen. The fingerprint was a perfect match. Suddenly, the unthinkable was undeniable. The mole was one of their own, a 25-year veteran of the Bureau. With Hanssen nearing retirement, the FBI had to move quickly to catch him in the act. They devised an elaborate sting, creating a fake promotion for him at headquarters to place him in a role where he could be watched. They then assigned a young FBI employee, Eric O'Neill, to work as Hanssen's assistant, with the secret mission of spying on the spy. O'Neill's job was to track Hanssen's every move and, crucially, to get his hands on the PDA Hanssen used to store his secrets. The net was closing. On February 18, 2001, surveillance teams followed Hanssen to Foxstone Park in Virginia. They watched as he walked down a path and placed a package of classified documents under a wooden footbridge, marking a nearby sign with tape to signal the drop was ready. As Hanssen walked back toward his car, the arrest team swarmed in. After 22 years of treason, the spy who had outsmarted everyone was finally caught. Robert Hanssen's betrayal is considered by many to be the worst intelligence disaster in U.S. history. He pleaded guilty to 15 counts of espionage to avoid the death penalty and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. He spent the rest of his days in solitary confinement at a supermax prison in Colorado, where he was found dead in his cell in June 2023. The full scope of the damage he inflicted will likely never be known, but it was staggering. He destroyed careers, compromised national security programs worth billions, and was directly responsible for the deaths of agents who had placed their faith in the United States. So what really drove him? It wasn't ideology. He told investigators his only motive was money, but his actions point to a much deeper pathology. It was a poisonous cocktail of greed, ego, resentment, and a narcissistic need to prove he was smarter than everyone else. He was a man who craved a sense of power and importance that his real life never gave him. So he found it by living a secret one, even if it meant betraying his country, his colleagues, and his own family. The story of Robert Hanssen is a chilling reminder that evil doesn't always show up with a monster-ease face. Sometimes it wears a black suit, goes to church every morning, and lives right down the street. It's a story about the profound vulnerability at the heart of trust, and how the most ordinary of men can be capable of the most extraordinary betrayals.